Hello once again and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now we know that a quadratic equation is any equation that is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. We have learned that in order to solve a quadratic equation, there is a couple of methods. One of them is obviously factorization. There's complete the square. There is also the quadratic formula, and obviously graphing it either using the graphic calculator or using your hands. So now if we go ahead and complete the square for this original quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then we come up with a formula. This formula is known as the quadratic formula. It's basically, I think we've all seen it a lot of times, it's negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. The inside part is known as the discriminant, otherwise known as delta, which is basically the Greek letter delta. It's shown like this. Delta is essentially b squared minus 4ac. What is the purpose of delta? Delta basically shows us the number of solutions a quadratic equation has. Now, there's a bunch of information that is very useful when you're talking about delta. So essentially, the first piece of information is that if delta is positive, then you have two real solutions. And in that case, when you go ahead and graph your quadratic equation, you will have essentially a graph that hits the x-axis at exactly 2 points, which means that you obviously have two solutions. If delta is in case 2, if delta is equal to 0, then you will have only one real solution. And in that case, your graph will hit the x-axis just barely like this. So we'll just hit it at just 1 point on the x-axis, which shows that you have one real solution. So just 1 point. And the third and final case is when you have a negative delta, in which case you have no real solutions. And of course, if you're familiar with imaginary solutions, you know that imaginary numbers, you know that you have actually two imaginary solutions, although you have no real solutions when delta is negative. So in that scenario, when delta is negative, your graph is actually entirely above the x-axis, which means that you have no solutions. Now, how do you go about solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula then? Well, for example, let's say we've been asked to solve x squared minus 2x minus 15. Now we can easily factorize this, but if we have been specifically asked to use a quadratic formula, then the first step is to identify the coefficients of this quadratic equation. So we know that a, which is the leading coefficient, is always the coefficient of x squared, which is 1 in this case. B is negative 2. And c is negative 15. All right, now I suggest going ahead and using delta from the beginning, because that allows you to find out how many solutions you have. So you basically understand whether it will be worth to go ahead and just use the quadratic formula or not. So if we use delta over here, we're going to have negative 2 to the power of 2 minus 4 times 1 times negative 15. If you go ahead and calculate this, you will get essentially 64. And putting this back inside the main formula, which is negative b, so negative b times negative 2, negative times negative 2 plus minus the square root of 64 over 2a, which is 2. All right, let's continue then. Negative times negative gives you positive 2 plus minus the square root of 64, which is 8 over 2. So on the top, 2 plus 8, you get 10 over 5, 10 over 2, or 2 minus 8, negative 6 over 2. So your solutions are negative 3 and positive 5. And fun fact, if you go ahead and plug these inside your original equation, which is x squared minus 2x minus 15, you should get 0. So you could technically check whether you got the right solutions or not. For example, if I go ahead and plug negative 3 inside my equation, so negative 3 to the power of 2 minus 2 times negative 3 minus 15, here I'm going to get 9. Negative 2 times negative 3 is plus 6. That's going to be 15 minus 15, which is 0. So negative 3 is indeed a solution or a root of this equation. Thank you for watching and good luck.